Hi, I'm Dave with Remodel Media, and for the last 13 years, I've helped people put together kitchens, baths, outdoor kitchens, and various other home renovation projects. Today, I want to talk to you about the most common question I get in the kitchen, and that is, hey Dave, I want the best kitchen sink. Well, best is a relative term. What do you want to do with it? I want to put my dishes in it. True. But what else are you going to do with it? How are you going to take care of it? There are three basic types of materials. We've got your metals, we've got your porcelains, and we've got your composite stone materials. Your metals are materials like stainless steel or copper. Porcelains could be a porcelain enameled cast iron sink, or it could be a Fireclay sink. Fireclay is an interesting material because it's the same material all the way through. And then, of course, we have a newer type of material that other companies are starting to get into here. So there's some interesting designs out there in the world, and that is a material called composite stone, or composite granite, composite quartz. And I'll go through each of the three materials. Now, the reason people started using stainless steel as a kitchen sink is for a couple of reasons. Mainly because they want a sink that is reminiscent of a commercial kitchen. They want to have it look professional. Now, the reason commercial kitchens use stainless steel is because stainless steel will never crack, it will never chip, it will never fade, it will never rust. At least if it's a good quality stainless. Something like an 18 or a 16 gauge 304 stainless, basically something with a high nickel content, something that's going to have a little bit of a luster. The thing about stainless steel, though, is it will scratch, it will water spot. So the question I always have is, sure, you want stainless? Who's going to keep it looking nice? Or do you care about it looking nice? I've had some people tell me, I don't care, which is fine. I've had some people say, that's the maid's problem. That's fine. I've had some people say, that's my wife's problem. To which I say, well, let me know how that works out for you. So the bottom line is stainless steel is a beautiful material, but you got to know that something that beautiful needs maintenance. The other type of metal material is copper. Now, a copper sink is going to start out looking like a shiny copper penny. And then they take chemicals and they age it, giving it this dark brown or bronze kind of a look. The thing about copper is it will turn green around the drain and it will probably water spot. What you can do with copper is you can shine it up like a bright new copper penny and let it age naturally all over again. So it's an interesting feature, but again, something with maintenance or care built into it if you want it to look the way you bought it for a longer period of time. There's waxes you can use, things like that, to keep that finish from turning green and whatnot. The next type of material are your porcelains. So I mentioned Fireclay. Fireclay is a material that it looks like your porcelain enameled cast iron, but the biggest difference is porcelain enameled cast iron is literally just that. It's a layer of porcelain on top of cast iron, which means because it's a layered material, it can crack, it can chip, it can fade. I've seen little hairline cracks around the drain sometimes. It's not something that's going to happen tomorrow, but it's probably going to happen 5 or 10 years down the road. Anybody who's had a cast iron sink for more than 10 years will tell you, you always end up with these little chips down at the bottom and it starts to kind of rust through, and that's what leads to getting them replaced. Fireclay, that's not going to happen. Now, Fireclay doesn't have to be an apron front. You can do an undermount or a drop-in sink out of Fireclay, but it is the same material all the way through. So, and it's baked to a much higher temperature than cast iron. So, if you want the porcelain look, but you want something that's going to be the same now and 20 years from now, and it's not going to chip or rust, Fireclay is an excellent material to consider. Now that brings me to our final selection here, which is a composite stone material. Now, like the Fireclay, the composite stone is a solid material all the way through. Very durable. Some people touch it and say it feels a little plasticky. It is a man-made material, so it does have some resin in it. So you can hear it on my ring here. So it does have a lighter weight feel as compared to the porcelain enameled cast iron or the Fireclay material. So it's also a little bit more contemporary in the way it looks. It's usually a more matte finish, although some of them do have some sparkle to them. It's not going to be as glossy as a Fireclay or a porcelain enameled cast iron. Now that brings me to the ways you can mount a sink. So there's, again, 3 basic ways to mount a sink. So a drop-in sink is a sink where the hole is cut and the sink is actually dropped into the countertop and the fixture is installed on top of the sink. An undermount sink is a sink where the hole is cut in the countertop and the sink is actually mounted underneath your countertop, and the fixture is usually mounted on the countertop itself. And then you have your apron front sinks, like we show over here. You've got, this is an apron front sink. This happens to be Fireclay, but you can get them out of stainless steel or even the composite stone material. So this is a great, cool farmhouse look. You can get some that are more contemporary. You can get some that are hand painted in France and very bougie. So, which brings me to the 3 different ways to undermount a sink. So your most typical way to undermount a kitchen sink is like this one right here, where the cutout of the kitchen sink tends to line up with the cutout of the countertop, and it's pretty much just a flush design. You can have your sink and your countertop cut so that the edge is actually pulled away and you see a little bit of that lip all the way around. So that's called a positive reveal. You have your neutral reveal, which is the flush design. You have the positive reveal. And you also have a concept called negative reveal. And that's not very common in the kitchen. It's a little more common in the bathroom. And the way it works is the countertop is actually cut so it overhangs into the sink a little bit. Again, not very common in the kitchen, but it does happen. So these are conversations you want to make sure you have with your countertop fabricator before the sink goes in, because once that countertop is cut, you're pretty much done. Now there are 3 ways to properly mount an apron front sink. So we've covered the 3 ways you can have the countertop reveal, which is, that's one way, is to undermount it. You can also bring it up so the countertop is going to be even with the edge of your sink, such as in this installation right here. You can actually bring it up so the countertop and the sink actually meet up right here. It's not very common, but I do see it from time to time where the apron front actually sticks up above your countertop. Final selection to make is whether or not you want to go with a single or a double bowl. A single bowl is great because you've got lots of space and you can fit lots of things. You don't have to worry about pot handles sticking up, things like that. As opposed to a double bowl, which is obviously not as spacious. There is a third option in that category if you want to go something in the middle, and that is something with a low divide. A low divide gives you the option to lay things flat, but you also have a little bit of a divide if you really like to do dishes by hand. Some people prefer it. I'd rather say get a dishwasher that actually washes the dishes. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Again, my name is Dave. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. I'm going to put some links in below to some of the products that we talked about today. And if you feel compelled to like, subscribe, share, please do so. And if not, well, I'll see you later.